now we move into the stories from Sam Maguire. One of them is that Arne Slot has become frustrated with Luis Diaz as the season has progressed. So that's one from Anfield sector via Sam Maguire. The next one is Liverpool are plotting to overhaul their attack this summer. Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz are both expected to leave, while Diogo Jota could also be sold. Now, I've no problem tweaking the attack. I've no problem with the manager thinking a player or two needs to move on. But I struggle to figure out how we can adequately replace 2 to 3 forwards, bring in a midfielder we need, bring in a left back that we need, and bring in a centre back, renew all the contracts and get this done in one window. That's the part that I have concerns with. Because, again, the manager can make and choose, or pick and choose who he thinks are good enough and who aren't. But I don't think we get all of this done in one window. And I think it's a lot to expect to get it done, even if we do, and then have continuity of performance for next season. So I would be shocked if all 3 of those lads left the club in the summer. Absolutely shocked. I could see Darwin, absolutely. Diaz, if the right offer comes in, perhaps. But Jota on top of that, I don't know. I feel like that's probably a little step too far, but, you know, maybe you guys think differently. So what do we think there? Like, do you think there's any way that Diaz, Darwin and Jota all leave in one window? Because we don't know right now what's happening with Mo. So, you know, we're going to talk about Dejan Lovren's comments in a while, but we don't know what's happening with Mo. So there's possibility that we might need a forward there. Chiesa is not pulling up any trees at the minute, so there's a possibility we might need to look at him. And then if you throw in the other 3, we're left with Gakpo. So I just don't see it. I just don't see it being possible. I just don't see it being sensible to try and do it all in one season or one window. Not with the attack. You know, if Mohamed Salah signs and we get that news, brilliant. Then we've got him, we've got Gakpo. You find a centre forward and you see what happens with Diaz and Jota. Look, I'd keep Diogo around, personally. I know it's frustrating when he picks up injuries and whatnot, but I never really view him as somebody I expect to start every week anyway. I think Diogo Jota for me is the archetypal squad player for us, and a very good one. So I'm okay with keeping him around personally, but yeah, unsure. So I want to ask you about Diaz in particular, because look, we know the situation with Darwin. We're aware that we're likely going to see Darwin moved on in the summer, but I'm a little bit surprised to hear about Diaz, to be honest. So 1 second. Right, so I'm going to ask, do you think we sell Luis Diaz in the summer? Yes, no, or unsure? We'll leave that running for a while. Because the Darwin one, look, I think it's fairly safe to say that Darwin's going to be sold in the summer. You know, from my conversations with journalists, from my understanding of the lay of the land, I think it's too far now for Darwin. I think that ship has sailed. But the Diaz one is interesting, because look at it from the club's perspective here. Diaz is on a low wage of about 65, 70 grand a week. He's got 2 more years to go in his Liverpool contract at the end of this season, which is probably the peak time to sell him if you are going to sell him. But you wouldn't have to be in a rush, because it's not going to free up a load of dough or anything like that. And with the amortization of his contract, again, I don't really understand exactly how that would work on the club's balance sheets, but it just feels like he'd be the least I'd be rushing out the door anyway. Ultimately, do I think Diaz is good enough? I'm on the fence about it, if I'm being honest with you. Sometimes I do. I love him on that left position. I'm not really fond of him through the centre, but he does give you something on occasion. But maybe this is more being driven from his side. I don't know. Maybe he still fancies that move to Barcelona if it's on for him, or a move over to La Liga. And look, if that's the case and the club get a number they're happy with, I would never really stand in anyone's way. Wendy said, defo sell Diaz. Every window his dad's trying to get him to Barca. I'd be interested to see the numbers, though. So let's say we take this as fact, and that Arne Slot is getting a bit frustrated with Diaz as the season goes on. I'd be interested to see what the asking price would be, because he's 28, heading for 29, I think. Correct me on that if I'm wrong. Gakpo's in incredible form at the minute on the left-hand side, scoring for fun, and certainly seems to be getting the nod on that side more than Diaz. So I think we're okay there. But then we go from having 2 very good options on the left side to 1, and I guess we'll see what happens then in the window. Ash said, where does Diaz go? PSG, Bayern, Real, all don't need him. Arguably even Barcelona. So, I have heard whisper of Saudi, to be honest with you. I've heard some whispers of some interest there from Saudi and Diaz, but I've no idea about whether he's open to that move or not. I haven't got a clue. Nesiksek said, the problem with selling Diaz is that the money will not be used for any replacements. See, I think it will. I do think it will. I've never accused FSG of not reinvesting money that they've brought in. My issue with them has always been it's the net spend. So how much they're willing to put back in outside of sales. That's been a bugbear for me. You know, there is no excuse this summer for the club because we've all been briefed that they've got a plan A, B, C and D. If the lads stay, the lads go. There's plans in place. So the club have built this up. The journalists have built it up. And the club have no excuses the next transfer window. It's get it right or the fans are going to be very annoyed about it. So I don't think there is wiggle room here. They've wiggled through the last 2 transfer windows and we haven't really seen any money being spent. In fact, we've made profits. So it's not going to wash in the summer. Would you replace him with Nico Williams? I'd love Nico Williams, Dara. Love him. I did see a piece the other day that suggested that Nico Williams is now open to a move to the Premier League. Liverpool, Arsenal, and I think maybe another club were linked as being ones interested in him. I'd love him to come in, to be honest with you. Do I know for a fact that Liverpool are negotiating or anything on him? No, I don't. But he's a very talented young player and I wouldn't say no. TOTT2KZ1 said, Costas, Nunes, Diaz and Jota I'd sell, then bring in a left back, centre midfielder, new striker. Dance can be a backup striker and hopefully Ben Doak stays. See, that right there would be my worst nightmare. Hoping that Dan's and Ben Doak fill the gaps of some senior players moving on. No, that wouldn't be good enough for me, mate, personally. If you're going to move on these guys, then you best have players for the here and now ready to come in and compete to be in the first team immediately. Not players you hope coming from the Championship like Ben Doak could get to the level, or players like Jayden Danns, who again hasn't played much football this season, and we don't know if this back injury is going to be a recurring thing for a while or not. It's a big leap of faith there for me to rely upon those, even allowing for some of the other positions that you've mentioned there, a left back, centre midfielder. The money should be there for those anyway. For me, the money should be there for those positions that we need, which I agree with. Left back, centre back, midfielder. That's 3 positions. And then if you move forwards on, you replace them. That's the way I look at it anyway. Today was the only time Diaz played left wing without Gakpo and he didn't look great. No one looked great at all. I'm hoping just one time thing because I know he's a talented player. Don't know if it is just a one time thing, but I guess this fringe performance backed up the other fringe performance, and that's seen us have 2 losses. So, that plays in my mind a bit as well. The lads on the edge have been given a chance, and they've not taken it twice now. In, 2 away from home games, fair enough, but one's Champions League, one's FA Cup, and they've not shown the manager enough to show that they're going to cause him any selection headaches, have they?